From the director of Guyana, 1838.
Mr. Rohit Jagisar, my name is Muin Muhammad. I heard you're from Guyana. What brings you to Trinidad?
I heard that you record the biggest Indo-Caribbean singers here. I want to take this music around the world. And someday, I want to record our music with a singer from India.
Thousands of singers here and in Guyana and Suriname, Fiji and Mauritius too. And you are going to India?
There's magic in her voice.
Maybe he's onto something, It has never been done before.
What's her name?
I don't know her name yet.
When are you coming to Bombay?
Mr. Jagisar, this is the radio signal of the New York Times. I can't take such a risk. Not on my watch.
Some have eyes that only see.
You're risking $6 million for Indian and Indo-Caribbean music. Which bank is going to give you that kind of money?
The Bank of Karma.
One man's quest to save the music of his heritage in a book of the time of our lives. Kiss and breathe.
Only the broken ones will rise.
A book of unparalleled proportions, written by Rohit Jagisar.
Available now on Amazon.
And a very good evening to you, our loyal listeners and followers to this program, our loyal listeners and followers on our platforms, the Guyanese Critic Facebook page, They Break News, and of course, Sky TV New York. Thank you very much. Let me also acknowledge our friends over there over there in Canada. Want to say thank you all very much for joining us. I want to encourage you also to share our video on your timeline. Send it in a message to your friends and invite them to join us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to spending some time with you tonight and having a really good program with you tonight. Tonight we have a special guest joining us. And it is certainly a pleasure for me to sit with this gentleman. But before I bring him on, I want to ask you once again if you can share the video and let others join us and let us have a really good program tonight, as we always do. We know that you, our listeners and our viewers, are always there with us, always sharing our video, very interactive, always always there with us. We want you to know that we appreciate you very much. And of course, we'll take this opportunity also to acknowledge our hardworking technical team who are always there ensuring that things work right, that we sound and look right, good every Tuesdays and Thursday night as we do this program. So thank you once again for joining us. If we can, ladies and gentlemen, because we're our technical guys, if we can we show the trailer for the book once again before we start talking, before I introduce our my guest and we have a nice conversation with our guest. If you can hear me, Junior, if we can show the trailer again, and then we'll go into the program and I'll introduce my guest for tonight.
From the director of Guyana, 1838.
Mr. Rohit Jagisar, my name is Muin Muhammad. I heard you're from Guyana. What brings you to Trinidad?
I heard that you record the biggest Indo-Caribbean singers here. I want to take this music around the world. And someday, I want to record our music with a singer from India.
Thousands of singers here and in Guyana and Suriname, Fiji and Mauritius too. And you are going to India?
There's magic in her voice.
Maybe he's onto something, It has never been done before.
What?
I don't know her name yet.
When are you coming to Bombay?
Mr. Jagesser, this is the radio signal of the New York Times. I can't tell dollars for Indian and Indo-Caribbean music. Which bank is going to give you that kind of money?
The Bank of Karma.
One man's quest to save the music of his heritage in a book of the time of our lives. Kiss and Breathe.
Only
Unparalleled Proportions. Written by Rohit Jagisar.
available now on Amazon.
So I guess you figure out by now that we are going to talk about this book, and tonight I am privileged to have the author of this book with us tonight, Mr. Rohit Jagasar. Welcome to the Diaspora Connected. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you, Ossie. I'm doing fine, and it's good seeing you. And hi to everyone.
Same here. So I want to first ask you, sir, if you can let our listeners and viewers tell us a little bit about yourself. So I heard you're from Guyana.
Yeah. Yes, I am from Guyana, and I grew up in Blackbush Polder,
Wow.
and came to America when I was 15 years old, and I saw that there was a need for our music, and our music was not available here in the diaspora. And at age 17, I made my first record, a fusion of Indo-Caribbean and Afro-Caribbean music. And then went on to produce Kanchan. We made 9 albums together. And also, I'm sure you would recall the fusion album, Arrow's Hot, 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 which I made in Hindi, Kuch Gad Badhe, with Kanchan in 1984.
Wow.
And then I went on to make the film Guyana 1838 that spoke about
But sir,
their,
I'm sorry. I don't
yes,
want us to rush through this. So I want to talk a little bit about you before we talk a little bit about your work. Let's talk a little bit about Blackbush Polder, growing up in Blackbush Polder,
nice.
and where you got this drive to get involved and to bring this culture, or Caribbean culture, bring it to the United States and spread it across the world. So let us talk a little bit about your upbringing first in Blackbush Polder on the Quarantine Coast.
Yeah, we arrived in Blackbush Polder in the early part of the 1960s. It was mostly savannas and jungles that I witnessed my father, my mother, my grandmother, and my older siblings as they toiled and worked the land. And by the age of 6, I got an understanding of the meaning of growing things and planting things in Blackbush Polder. And in that environment, I also learned the wisdom of Ayurveda, that is how the organic energy within the being works and how we can gravitate towards our purpose by observation. That in observation, there is no judgment, and in no judgment, there is no burden. And that is the journey, as my grandmother told me in Blackbush Polder, to moksha, where there is no more consequences to bear, and it's the state of observation. And the other part of your question, when I came to America at the age of 15, 2 years later, I went on this journey of the things I learned in Blackbush Polder to give to my community, Indo-Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean community, their music and culture.
So you came to the United States, and what was that? What was that? Or I know that coming, you came to the United States when?
1976.
Wow. And what was it? How was it coming to United States at that time? I'm sure it was not such a diverse place as it is today.
You're right, but it was diverse in a different way. Coming at that time, we looked to find like minded people, people of our culture. And it was very divided in that Brooklyn had predominantly Afro-Guyanese, Afro-West Indians, and Queens at the time had predominantly Indo-Guyanese, Indo-Caribbeans. And to cross that line, to cross that boundary of Brooklyn into Queens or Queens into Brooklyn, I must tell you it was a challenge, because at that age you don't know what's on the other side of the boundary line. One night I crossed it, and when I crossed it, I found myself. That is the boundary
A little
line
bit more about that.
between Indo-Caribbeans and Afro-Caribbeans, that of Queens and Brooklyn.
But tell us a little bit more about finding. You said you found yourself. I want you to expound a little bit on that, if you don't mind.
I went to Brooklyn, as I wrote in my book, at midnight. Something told me to go there. To cross the line, many said, should not be crossed, especially at nights. And when I arrived there, I saw a poster. It was pasted in front of a record store. The record store said, home of calypso, soca, and reggae music. It did not say Indo-Caribbean music. It was then that I realized that it was I who was the intruder, intruding into a community that didn't offer anything Indo-Caribbean. But I also knew we had to start somewhere. We have to start a dialogue. Either I turn back, or I look what is in Brooklyn, what is in this environment, what brought me to this environment, what purpose had for me on that night at midnight. And I saw this poster. It was yellow, and an artist was silhouette on this poster. So I crossed the street and looked at it, and it says Yellow Man. And I thought a yellow artist is quite intriguing. And that was my starting point, not only crossing the boundary line of Indo-Caribbean and Afro-Caribbean, but also entering the world of Afro-Caribbean music, for which I made 6 albums with Yellow Man, 8 albums with Dennis Brown, and a compilation Greatest Hits with Bob Marley. And on my journey to Kanchan for Indo-Caribbean music, many of these artists would go on to admire Indo-Caribbean music as well. That's what I found in Brooklyn.
But what? So you said that you recorded with well, not recorded, but you produced those albums, right? Am I correct?
Produced and or distributed, yes.
Nice. So what was it like with working with because we know that Yellow Man, especially for those who do not know, Yellow Man it's credited with the dance hall music. They said that he is the
Yes.
first person to introduce us to dance hall music. Reggae music was already there, but the
Of
dance hall
course.
music, Yellow Man was credited with that. And if you say, and you work with him, so you should be credited also for dancehall music. But you
He was a
know,
good friend. Yeah.
so but one look at you and then they were gonna be like, this man is worked on dance hall music. What do you
Thanks,
have to say
Ossie.
about that? Because
You're right. You're absolutely right. Because the first time I met Winston, that's Yellow Man, Winston Foster, he told me a story. And in that few minutes, we became very close to each other. Because of albinism, his parents had left him at a poor, what they call a poor house in Jamaica as a child. He was abandoned. And as a teenager, he used to hang out at Skateland. I'm sure, Ozzy, you heard of Skateland. And that's where all the artists will come. And Fathead met with him, the DJ. And that's how he started. And I realized that the broken one had risen. And it formed part of the title of my book, Kiss and Breathe, Only the Broken One Will Rise. Because not only Yellow Men, many of the artists were broken. Kanchan, she was struggling. What a magnificent talent. But she was making $10 or $20 per show when I met her. Yellow Man was making about $50 per show. All these artists were broken. They were all broken. And to work with them and interact with them and to put their music on the global stage brought us together. That's what brought us together, because they saw purpose in their work. And Yellow Man's Blueberry Hill, I'm sure you heard that song. It was done in a ballad with very little reggae influence. It was one of his biggest selling albums. I think we released
Can I
that
tell
in
you what my favorite
1987.
Yellow Man song was?
Right. Go
Can I
ahead.
tell you what my favorite Yellow Man song was?
Yes, please.
I'm getting married,
Married in the morning.
morning.
Well, you're quite
That's how
intuitive
long
because I was coming to that to tell you that 2 weeks before our show in Madison Square Garden, that song went to number one in New York. And that was the song that sold out the 2 concerts I had with him at Madison Square Garden. You're very intuitive to come up with that at this point here.
But I'm feeling even more excited talking to you. And to ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, our guest is Rohit Jagasar. He's an author, a producer, a Guyanese, that we should all be proud of. Tell us about some of your achievements. And I know that it's hard to get some people to talk about themselves and their achievements. But I think it's important because we've got, and forgive me to delve a little bit into politics, but we've got a certain section of in our political sphere in Guyana that is preaching some degree of hopelessness. So they have people out there that are operating in a hopeless state. So this is the reason for my question. From humble beginnings in Blackbush Boulder and the Quarantine to sold out shows at Madison Square Gardens, working with some of the greatest in chutney music, some of the greatest in reggae music. So much achievement. Director of Guyana 1838. So many achievements. Let us talk a little bit about your achievement. And I hope that I'm not putting you on the spot here because I know sometimes it's
Not
hard for
at
people
all,
to
I
do
see.
that.
Because I have no achievements. I have no achievements. My work is for the people. I work for them. And it is their achievements. You know, we say in music, a producer cannot make a hit record. A hit record is made by the public. It is the public that decides if they're going to buy a record or not, or if they're going to make a record a hit or not. So I have no achievements. I work for the people of my country, of my community, and that has always been my journey for the last 43 years of working for humanity. And I find great happiness in doing it. And I continue to do it today. Getting older now, I'm winding down a little bit, but I'm hopeful that the youths, the younger generation today, that they will carry on this kind of work of working for the community, working for humanity, working for people, serving and giving. That's what I'm hoping for.
Excellent.
Some of the work
And
I have done to kind of answer your question is recording and starting the first satellite radio station for reggae, soca, Indo-Caribbean, and Asian Indian music. And that was on the Pan Am Sat, on Satcom R3 transponder 16 in 1988, and it went on air in 1989. That was something I think that is a landmark time in our cultures, in our music. I don't see Indo-Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean. I am totally colorblind. I don't see.
You're like me.
Very good, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I sat with Chetty
course,
Jagan and I sat with Desmond Hoyt. I sat with President Barra Jagdale. I haven't met the new president yet, but hopefully one day.
he'll be I do not speak on his behalf, but I know that he'll be elated to see you because he's always
Thank you,
always
sir.
interested in Guyanese who go out and fly the flag of Guyana high, and you've done it to the
Yes.
highest level. And
Thank you,
I
sir.
you know I'm certain that he is profoundly proud of you and your achievement, and
Thank you, sir.
the first opportunity that he gets, he'll be looking forward to meeting you. He likes to meet Guyanese people.
Well, he's a
The
young
thing I
president, and I'm sure there's a lot more in him, many good years
Yes,
ahead of him, and my best wishes to him.
some of the things you spoke about is some of the things that I know that drive him every day. Doing good, serving humanity, helping people,
Yes.
um, and flying the flag of Guyana high and putting Guyana out there on the map. Those are the things that drive
Yes,
him.
sir.
So you have a lot in common with him. So um, let us talk a little bit, sir, about Guyana. Is it Guyana 1838?
1838.
Yes, you've directed that movie. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wrote the screenplay over a 7-year period and shot the film in 2004. The then President Barra Jagdeo must be credited for that film because he was the one that said, Rohit, bring the production to Guyana. Let's create something in Guyana. And I'm glad I did because that's when I saw his management, that I had 400 people working on this film. And he told me you will not have any issues or any bottlenecks. And everything he told me, that's how it was. And I must say very proudly, not a single individual asked for a bribe or anything once they knew that it was word from his office that came down that this film will be made in Guyana. So I have seen his management skills at first hand, and I admire him a lot for that, for his management skills. The film Guyana
Okay.
1838, Ossie, reminds me tonight of our interaction. You of Afro descent, me of Indian descent. The people met in 1838 at a time when a seed of mistrust was planted. The now freed African slaves, they were free to ask for good wages. They had their opportunity. And then the British, the imperialists, brought in the Indians, and the now freed Afro-Guyanese thought that the Indians came to take their opportunity away. And the British loved that storyline. The British planters, they loved that storyline, and they promoted that storyline in 1838. And they sowed that seed of mistrust between our people. And I wrote in my book, it's a seed that still grows today. And it's very unfortunate that it is allowed to grow till this day. It is my hope that people revisit Guyana 1838 and to see at first hand in cinema these characters, especially that of the late my friend Henry Rodney, who played the role of Cabby in my film, the Maroon, who returned to the plantation life upon the abolition, rather upon the end of apprenticeship, emancipation in 1838. Neville Williams played the role of his father, and Kumar Gaurav, the Bollywood actor, played the role of Lakshman, the Indian indentured servant who was enslaved on the plantation. It was a wonderful experience working with these great talents. I miss Henry Rodney a lot. He was a dear, dear friend of mine, a wonderful human being. I wish his family all the best. Yeah.
I am really touched by this conversation we're having, and one of the things that stuck out, well, so many things you said tonight, sir, and I'm really happy that you gave me an opportunity to sit here and have this conversation with you. I feel very honored, and it's one of the things, one of those things that I will always remember. You
Thank
giving
you,
me an
Ossie.
opportunity to sit and to talk with you, because for me, one of the things I try to do is I try to promote Guyanese and what is good about Guyana. In journalism, it is so easy for, they say, once it bleeds, it leads. And the
Yes,
negative stories always seem to get the most airplay and the most traction. But we've got thousands of Guyanese who have excelled in their craft out throughout this world that some of
yes,
us have never heard about. Some of us, I've heard your name before, sir.
thank
But tonight, having this opportunity to talk to you, I realize that there are lots of great Guyanese doing awesome work out there that we still haven't, that some of us have probably have never heard of. Some of us have probably never met. And there's so much stories that come out that can come out of Guyanese that can inspire people. And I'm hoping
thank
that
you,
lots of people are watching us here tonight and will be inspired by some of the things that you've said to us. And
thank you.
so thank you very much, and thank you very much for
You're
pushing
welcome.
Guyanese. Now we've got a book to talk about, but before we do that, I know we moved from music and we spoke about the film, we spoke about your background, but I want to go back to music a little bit because I love Babla and Kanchan, and
Thank
I
you.
might not look it, but I dance it and I play it all the
No,
time
you
and I
look it
enjoy
too.
it.
You look it
So,
too.
so what
Because when
was
I
it
go to the
like?
shows,
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you, but when we go to concerts, it's the two of us we see throughout the crowd. It's a wonderful
Wow.
mix of people.
Yeah,
Yes.
because trust me, I do play music from time to time too, and I know it doesn't matter the skin color.
Yeah. Yes.
Babla and Kanchan is infectious music that does something to you. The rhythms, regardless of who you are, regardless of your skin color,
Yes.
it, it,
Yes.
it it creates a certain vibration in the body and brings out a
Yes.
certain degree of happiness and cause the body to react to that in
Yes.
movement.
Yes.
That what was it like bringing that type of music and introducing that type of music to the world?
In 1984, I recorded her with Kanchan with Arrow's Hot, Hot, Hot. When Arrow heard it, he went absolutely crazy because he never met me. And I had secured the rights through his attorney, who was representing Bruce Springsteen at the time. And because Bruce Springsteen was so busy, his lawyer was busy and didn't tell Arrow that he had given me the license. So Arrow went absolutely crazy until his attorney set up the meeting and we met, and then we both realized we have the same lawyer. We became pals from that day right to the time of his passing. We were very close. He was an amazing artist. Kanchan loved him so much. We did two of his songs, Hot, Hot, Hot and Tiny Whiny. And another song, he had sent me the demo tape. And I told him, no, we're not ready yet. And I wrote about this in my book. Ossie, I must tell you, it's a big disappointment that I told him no. I wish we had covered that song.
Wow.
So my work with Kanchan and Kuch Gad Badhe allowed us to spread the music throughout the Caribbean, throughout Africa, where the single sold nearly 3 million copies. And in South Africa, we did not release it because of the obvious issues that were there. But after apartheid, we released it in South Africa to the same result. Wherever that record went, it crossed every boundary. It broke down all the boundaries, all the barriers. President Desmond Hoyt invited us to his office in 1985. Cherry Jagan invited us to his home at the same time to tell you how the record was bringing people together. Yes. And as an extension of this, you would remember the 1997 elections,
Yes.
when there was more fire, slow fire on the streets of Georgetown. The last 71 pages of my book talks about my meeting with Desmond Hoyt. And I think you will find it very interesting when I told him, you will never be president again. You don't have the numbers. Go home. Stop it. Go home. You will find that in the book. It's the last 71 pages that deals a little bit about social issues in the Caribbean. I met Desmond Hoyt three times over 2 days. And I don't want to tell you too much, but if you could read it in the book. Yeah.
Read it in the book. And
Yes, sir.
so let us talk a little bit about the book. First of all, uh, where did the inspiration to write this book came from? And was it long coming? Was it just a spur of the moment thing? Where did the inspiration come from to write this book?
Henry Rodney at one time asked me the question, when are you going to tell us about yourself? You talk about everyone else. You cover politics on your radio. You made a film. You always talk of others. And I told him, it will take time. My work isn't over. And over time, people are discovering my work through social media. And they ask the question, or many questions, about Kanchan, about my work with Bob Marley compilation album. And coming to one of the things you ask, me going to Jamaica to do reggae music and owning Indian radio and calypso and reggae radio, Asian Indian radio. But I think most of all, the inspiration came, I wanted to know more about myself. I wanted to discover myself. And so I went on a journey to finding myself, and I started to write what I found about myself. I became a drifter. The first year I wrote nothing at all. I just went on a journey thinking. And the other 2 years I wrote about 8 to 18 hours a day. I did about 201,000 words. I became a drifter. I joined Amtrak and I'll get out at different places, check into different hotels, see what I can find in every environment. So I went to the Carolinas, Virginia, Washington, D.C. I ended up, by the time I wrote about Bob Marley and my album compiling his greatest hits, I had reached Miami. 8 miles from there is where he passed. And I took a place in Miami Beach and I completed the book there and went through the process of editing. But I think my greatest inspiration, to square away your question, came from the organic energy, the things I learned from my grandmother. Because throughout the journey of drifting and writing, her wisdom kept on reliving in my mind. She taught me that the color of light is black. It's only when you put the reflection on the bulb does the light come on. And the last 3 years I spent trying to find that switch within myself, the organic energy within myself. She taught me about thinking, how to think, that we have no more than one thought at a time. And in between each thought, therefore, is our biggest opportunity. That is, think something good. And that has always stuck out with me. So to answer your question, sir, I think the greatest inspiration were her thoughts.
Wow. I see we have something in common. While I might not have done it the same way as you, but I know we're taking this is a little sidetrack from what you're talking from our subject. But I think you are absolutely correct when you say that sometimes you just need to. The United States is a big open place,
Yes.
and it's amazing. It's amazing what one trip from one city or one state to another
Yes.
can do,
True.
especially when you do it by yourself.
Yes, yes.
Especially when you do it by yourself. I've been to,
Yes.
I started living in the United States, and this is not about me, ladies and gentlemen. This is about our honored guest on this program. But I started living in the United States in 2015, and I've been to 42 different states.
Wow.
And every time I hop into my car and I drive over 1,000 cities, every time I hop into my car and I drive from one state to the next, and I just go there, and it's just me and my thoughts. It's a
Yes.
refreshing thing. It's a refreshing thing.
Yes.
So when you talk about hopping on the Amtrak and going from one place to the next, I can relate to you. Another thing I want to
Yes.
say that I can relate to you with is the voice of my grandmother.
Yes, sir.
There are many times when situations and there's so many things, but that cool, calm, collective voice of your grandmother always seemed to
Yes,
be
sir.
able to jog you back and to pull you back into perspective.
Yes, keeps you
Just something I
grounded.
just thought out here at this moment. When you are uh, on our screen, our guest tonight is the legendary, a real honorable Guyanese, Rohit Jagasar, a man
Thank you, sir.
who has certainly put our country on the map and our Caribbean region. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'm reading here, page 374. In this portion, I met with Mr. Desmond Hoyt. It was the election time, and more fire, slow fire was happening on the streets of Georgetown. It was riots, and Mr. Hoyt called me to speak with me, and I'm reading. He turned his chair toward mine, looked straight into my eyes, gently took my hand. I learned much from that touch. Looking at his hands and feeling their texture, I learned though this man had lived a life of law and politics, his hands had other tales to tell, tales of a life full of struggle. In that moment, I was reminded of the last time I saw my grandmother. As I had prepared to leave our small home in Blackbush Polder and venture out into the world, she took my hand in hers and told me to work hard. She told me I was her hope to further our family's heritage. She kissed my forehead that morning and told me to breathe. With these thoughts, my hands grew warmer, and so too did Mr. Desmond Hoyt's. I knew for certain, like many I had met on my travels, he was awakening to a new consciousness. His next question lifted me out of my deep thoughts. Then how will history judge me, Mr. Jagasar? After a moment more, as I continued to look at his hands, I answered, Chief, what the eye sees, the pen writes. I then lifted my eyes to meet his. It's time to go home, sir. It's time for you to go home. You don't have the numbers. That is an excerpt
And
on my
this
meeting with Mr. Hoyt.
and this is talking about the 1997
97.
elections that we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
1997 elections.
Yes.
um I'm speechless. I'm speechless because that is a time in our history where
Yes.
some would want us to forget, but it will live on in this book also. Where did
25
the
years ago.
yeah, wow. Now you're reminding me of my age.
Well, this is a very interesting moment because we are speaking from Mr. Sanchara's studio in New York. And Mr. Hoyt called me upon seeing me at Mr. Freddie Sanchara's Channel 4 in Guyana in 1997. So this is a historic moment for us tonight.
Wow. That are operating in a sense of hopelessness at this time. I would wish that
Yes.
all of them, after watching the interview with me, but you've been on many other interviews, I'd want to
Yes, sir.
encourage all of our young people to watch some of your interviews and be inspired by your stories, and to
Thank you, sir.
use your stories and experience and what you wrote about, and even some of the history that you brought back to life in cinema, in Guyana 1838,
Yes,
to
sir.
use that to say to yourself that I can break off this shackle of hopelessness, and I
Yes.
can do something. I can do something, like Mr. Jagasar and many other Guyanese who came from humble beginnings and were able to make it big, or were able to do something in this life that is going to leave, um, a legacy that is going to live on way beyond your time and my time. So I
Yes.
am delighted, delighted, delighted that I had this opportunity to talk to you. But before we
Thank
go,
you, sir.
where did the idea for the name and or the title of the book
It's
came
an
from?
interesting question. Kiss and breathe, I believe, and I like to speak with the younger people, that if there is clarity in your thoughts, nothing will be in the way of you and your purpose. As Mr. Ossie asked the question, kiss and breathe is very simple. Keep it simple and breathe. And the subtitle of the book, Only the Broken Ones Will Rise. You will find that if you look at the plant, the leaves will always drop out and change, but not the root. The root remains firmly planted. It's the last thing to go. But the leaves go. The broken ones, they drop and fall for new ones to come, for that tree to rise. There should be no attachment to things. If you're successful because you have a lot of money and your community needs you, give it to them. Give it to them. How much to give? All of it. That's the only way. Don't give some. I know you are scared when I say give all of it. But believe me, the more you give, the more you will get. That's how it works. So I'll say to you that the title of my book, Only the Broken Ones Will Rise, I believe that those people from the 1600s and the 19th century that met in 1838, I believe they can rise. I believe they can rise. But the only way to do it is to do it. Stop the dialogue. It's enough dialogue. It's enough complaining. Do it. Rise now.
Wow. What an awesome time I had talking to you, Mr. Rohit Jagasar.
Thank you,
I
sir.
would welcome an opportunity to sit and talk with you again anytime,
Thank you, sir.
anytime. You would
Thank
always
you.
be welcome on this program, because
Thank you.
this 1 hour that we spent in this conversation certainly inspired me somewhat, and have lifted my spirit. One
Thank
of the things, like I said, I've always tried to do is to ensure that our people know that we've got Guyanese throughout this entire world that are doing amazing things But the state of our media, those are not the important things. And it's sad because while it's important to report the news, who was killed and who did what, it's also important to report on the achievement and accomplishments of Guyanese throughout the world when
Yes.
they're doing great things. And we're missing that. We're missing that. One time I'm driving in Seattle, Washington, and I heard an accent. I'm going to share this story with you before I give you an opportunity to give me your closing thoughts.
Yes, sir.
I heard an accent on NPR radio,
Right.
and I recognized the accent to be Guyanese. And right there and then, I was even more intrigued because I'm hearing a Guyanese accent on NPR radio in Seattle, Washington,
Yes.
and they were speaking to a person who was one of the chief engineers to give us the lithium batteries. I've never heard that story on the media here in Guyana or anywhere in the media. Anybody reporting on that?
Yes.
It took NPR to let us know that one of the uh, chief person behind the lithium batteries that are powering our cell phones and powering so many
Right.
other things is a Guyanese. We've got,
Wonderful.
ladies and gentlemen, we've got tons and tons of Guyanese like Mr. Jagasar here who are doing amazing things. Let us use their stories to inspire us. Let us use their stories to lift us and to make us better. Do not buy into the daily dose of hopelessness that is fed to you by some who would
Wow.
want to keep you into that state of hopelessness. Things are
Nice.
happening. Things are
Yes.
happening. Mr. Jagasar, your closing thoughts.
Yes. Sir, I want to say to the younger people that something very simple. You have trillions of cells in your body. The way one go, they all go. Of those trillions of cells, the way one go, they all go. The cells break down protein into energy and give you that energy to think, to speak, and to move. If you have two different thoughts, you're breaking down that energy because the cells don't have a direction any longer. So therefore, your words means a lot. As Mr. Ossie just pointed out, he heard a voice, he felt a connection, voice belonging to his background. And he was proud of the achievement of that gentleman speaking. Be mindful of your words. When you speak, your body is listening to you and it's believing what you are saying. As Mr. Ossie rightly said, there are different things being spoken in the media today. And those who spoke those words, they themselves are becoming those words. Choose your words wisely. Your cells are listening, and your words are giving them the direction. They are your energy chambers. What you say is what you will become. Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you very, very much, Mr. Rohit Jagasar. Um, I would I would say award-winning writer, producer, director, amazing Guyanese, doing the work and keeping our flags flying high. He wrote this book, Kiss and Breathe. Only the broken ones will rise. It's available on Amazon, in paperback and in ebook.
Yes.
Get your copies now. Get your copies now, and grab a piece of history from this outstanding Guyanese. Mr. Jagasar, it's from me.
Thank you.
It's an honor of a lifetime to have this opportunity to sit and have this talk with you. And I want Sky TV New York and the Guyanese Critic, Daybreak News. These platforms are always open to you. I am looking
Thank you,
forward
sir.
for another opportunity to sit next to you and to talk to you again. And thank you for the inspiration tonight.
Thank you, sir. My best wishes to you and to everyone in Guyana and to everyone watching the broadcast overseas in the diaspora. And Mr. Dino Dilchen, who helped to put this together with Mr. Richard Sanchara and his family, Junior and all. I thank you so much and my best wishes to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I hope that, like me, you are inspired by our conversation here with this noble Guyanese soul. I want to thank you very much for joining us on this Thursday evening. I look forward to talking to you, endorsing this book, and encouraging every single one of you to go out and purchase this book, get a copy of it. If you haven't read anything in a while, any book in a while, because we read on social media, newspapers, and other things. If you haven't read a book in a while, here's an opportunity to get reading again. Something. Read about yourself. This is about you. This is about your culture, your heritage, your country. This is about you. Kiss and Breed. Only the Broken Ones Will Rise. Available worldwide in paperback and on ebook. Available on Amazon. My name is Ossie Rodgers on the behalf of my technical team in New York, Sky TV New York, and also our technical team in Guyana, Daybreak News, and the Guyanese Critic Facebook page. I look forward to talking to you again on Tuesday, all being equal. Until then, I wish you and your family a very pleasant rest of the night, and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to record our music with a singer from India.
Thousands of singers here and in Guyana and Suriname, Fiji and Mauritius too. And you are going to India?
There's magic in her voice.
Maybe he's onto something, It has never been done before.
What's her name?
I don't know her name yet.
When are you coming to Bombay?
Mr. Jagasser, this is the radio signal of the New York Times. I can't take such a risk. Not on my watch.
Some have eyes that only see.
You're risking $6 million for Indian and Indo-Caribbean music. Which bank is going to give you that kind of money?
The Bank of Karma.
One man's quest to save the music of his heritage in a book of the time of our lives. Kiss and breathe.
Only the broken ones will rise.
A book of unparalleled proportions, written by